Hello and welcome to another edition of Meet the Red Cross. I'm Dave Griffith. I'm the Executive Director of the Heart of Missouri Chapter, and we're glad to have you with us today. March is Red Cross Month, and we would like to really solicit your help in helping us to get the word out about March's Red Cross Month. And there are a number of ways that you can do that. If you have a business that has a marquee out in front, we would like for you to put March's Red Cross Month on that marquee, or if you would be willing to put one of our flyers or posters in your window, that will also just get that word out that March is Red Cross Month. And if you'd like to have more information on that, you can call our local office at 573-635-1132, or toll free, you can call 866-815-2738. And we're going to be doing this all month long, so any way that you can help us, that would be absolutely wonderful. Well, we have two guests on the show again with us today. And in the first part of our show, we're going to be talking about the Jefferson City Lifesaver event that's coming up in June, and we're fortunate enough to have one of our past recipients of that, Officer Meredith Friedman, was the recipient of our Law Enforcement Lifesaver Award last year, and she's with us to kind of tell us her story. And then on the second half of the show, we have one of our volunteers that has been with us for about 2 years now. Jolene Davis will be joining us to tell us about the dinner auction that's going to be going on up in Mexico for Audrain and Montgomery County, that part of our chapter. So stay with us for that part. But right now, I just want to, Meredith, Officer, glad to have you with us today and have us tell your story. What we'd like to do on this show, Meredith, is just to let people know about you and something about you
Sure.
personally, and then we'll kind of get into what's going on with and how the Lifesaver Award impacted you last year. And so just tell us about Meredith Friedman.
Well, I've been employed with the Jefferson City Police Department a little over 6 years. I'm coming up on my 7-year anniversary here in the fall. Before that, I worked in a law firm in Chicago and native of Callaway County, so I'm not too far away.
And you have a family?
I do. I have a daughter. She is 9 years old this year and in the third grade. So yes, she's a handful, but she's great.
And I know we were talking about this earlier, that when you received the award, she had something to say about that too, didn't she?
Well, I think she did. She thought it was pretty cool. I'm not, it's one of those things that we always want to impress our kids, and I think I did it that year.
You certainly did. Well, one thing about Lifesaver Awards, and we haven't talked about Lifesaver Awards a whole lot this particular year, but the Lifesaver Awards really was set up and designed as a recognition event. It's a fundraiser that the Red Cross has for our chapter, but I think the biggest part of what we try and do during that dinner is to recognize those who have gone above and beyond and really impacted people's lives in a very significant way. And obviously law enforcement is one of those categories. And well, actually law enforcement impacts people's lives every single day.
True.
And
True.
you might just tell us about that, how you got nominated and what that incident was about.
Well, I got nominated, I believe, by some friends of the family, but I was called out to we had a 911 call regarding a house fire. So I was the closest one, so I got dispatched, and I went to the house, and it was obviously on fire at the time I got there. So yeah, you say we go above and beyond. Still to this day, I don't think I really went above and beyond. I did what I was trained to do, and it's still a little baffling to me. So
okay, when you just kind of go into it a little bit more about
Sure.
about what the scene was like, and
well, I got there. I pulled up in front of the house, and there was heavy smoke coming from the house. It was obviously a house fire. A lot of times we get called for smoke and structure, and it's a heating vent or something like that is overheated. But this was obviously something a lot more serious than what we usually respond to. I remember parking my car, and I remember actually moving my car up a little bit because I knew I was going to be in the way of the fire department where I was. I walked up, and I know there were people outside saying that there was a couple still inside, an elderly couple still inside. So I really kind of pushed everybody out of the way and went on in, and thankfully they were both right. The gentleman was right there inside the door, and his wife was quite a ways down the hallway, but we got them both out safely. So.
I know this is something that a lot of people think, but what's going through your mind at that particular time?
I honestly, this is going to sound funny. There really wasn't a whole lot going through my mind at that time. I knew there was a job that needed to be done, and I really didn't think about the after effects or the consequences or anything like that. You know, you were faced, and that's what we're trying to do. You're faced with a situation, you make a split decision judgment, and you do it, and that's what I did.
Well, I think you touched on that as far as training goes. And what kind of training do you get as a policeman? I think we probably all think that, you know, firemen are trained to do that, and that's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
But police officers, we don't always put them in that particular category.
When it comes to fires and such, we don't get a lot of training, mainly because we are not equipped to go into a burning house. Our uniforms are not equipped to do that. We don't have the SCBA units, the breathing apparatus. We don't have that kind of thing. So obviously they probably would prefer if we don't. But the situation dictated what I did, and I didn't feel as though waiting was an option.
What let's walk back to when you found out you were nominated.
Oh.
What was that like, and what were your feelings then?
I was shocked. I was surprised, very surprised, actually. Honored, obviously. It's important to get recognized by, you know, your peers and your supervisors and things like that. But then when you find out you've been recognized by a group that has nothing to do with you or your employer or anything like that, it's very meaningful. It's very, it puts it a little bit on a higher scale.
Well, I know you shared that with us when you talked with us at last year's Lifesaver Awards, and I think that was probably something that really was an eye-opener for me. Because I think we say thank you a lot to we say thank you a lot to a lot of volunteers, but I think as a society, I don't think that we say thank you enough, and especially to law enforcement and to firefighters and those that really put their lives on the line every single day. And I know that meant a lot to you. And
it did.
So I'm going to challenge our audience that if you see a law enforcement officer, just say thank you to them, and we certainly appreciate what you did.
Oh.
And the common theme with every single person that has won this Lifesaver Awards was that I was just doing what I needed to do, and I think that speaks volumes for it. So tell me about. For the law enforcement award that's coming up, how is that? Are you having any impact? Are there any people that are on your police force that you feel like, fellow officers, you feel like that would be candidates?
Absolutely. I mean, I think every year, and not only with our department, you know, you hear stories all the time of all of our local departments. You know, there are extraordinary things happening. You know, good things happening in departments, not just mine. You know, there's good things happening in all of the local departments here, and unfortunately, sometimes you don't hear about that. You know, we hear about it because, you know, we're in the business of hearing about it. You know, you hear about what, you know, Department A, B, or C has done, but as the general public, I don't think you do. But yeah, there's some people with our department, especially, that I know. Some of the EMTs have gone above and beyond. Some of the firefighters have gone above and beyond. Some of our police department has gone above and beyond. So there are always people, I think, that would be excellent candidates.
Have you maintained any contact with those folks that were in that fire?
I have not. I know they are very busy with their mission work and things like that. I'll admit, you know, when I'm out in that area, I'll drive by just to make sure things are okay, just to make sure the house looks good and things like that. And I know it's a silly thing because the chances of there being a problem again in the same location are very slim. But you know, it just gives me a little bit of peace of mind to know that while I don't maintain a relationship with them, I'm still checking up and I'm still making sure everything's okay.
Well, I would be remiss that. Well, my son is a police officer as well, and I know that when he went through his training that one of the I think virtually every one of his instructors said the most important thing that you do in your job is go home at night.
That's true.
And that took on a whole new meaning for me when my son became a police officer, and I know that that's something that if you watch any of the cop shows on TV, that's one of the things that they say. But there's a lot of truth and a lot of value in that.
That's true.
And
that's true.
Tell us about kind of what your job is. I mean, we know you're a police officer.
Yes.
Kind of tell us about what all that entails.
Well, I'm involved in the patrol section of the police department. There's various sections that you can be involved in. My job is to go out on patrol. I get in a car, I drive the streets. Unfortunately, I may pull you over for a traffic violation. I effect arrests. I respond to calls for service. When somebody calls, I'm who you get, or someone else in the patrol division, obviously. So unfortunately, when we get called and when I deal with people, sometimes they don't want to see us. Sometimes they don't, So it goes back to where you said, say thank you. A lot of times I don't deal with people when they're on their best days, unfortunately. But it's okay. It's okay because I know that once we get things sorted out, the only place we can go from there is up. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, I know you've been with the police force for 6 years. Mm-hmm. Any aspirations for moving up in the police force?
I won't count my chickens before I hatch, but I'm content where I am right now. I like the group of guys I work with. We get along well. We work well together. We're effective. So for right now, I'm content to be just right where I am. So.
Well, Meredith, I appreciate you being on the show with us today,
thank you.
and I appreciate what you and your fellow officers, what they do for us every day in protecting us. I know that when a lot of people look at where they want to move in a community they want to move into, there are definitely a few things that they look at, and one of those things is their safety, their law enforcement. And
absolutely.
And we can be very proud here in Jefferson City of the police
so.
force we have. So,
all right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we want to invite you to our Lifesaver Awards that we have this year, coming up this year. June 24th is the date that we have for that. It's going to be held out at the Capital City West Christian Activity Center that they've got there. Formerly was the Great Central Lumber. It's going to be on a Tuesday evening. We're going to have a barbecue, and we're going to be recognizing another group of heroes that we have that serve in our community and actually throughout the 21 counties that we have in the Heart of Missouri chapter. So we want to invite you to come to that. And we'll be right back after we take a short break with Jolene Davis, one of our volunteers. Tell us about a dinner auction that's coming up as well. So stay with us.
2 o'clock. Okay.
Your employees who serve in the National Guard and Reserve may seem different. They may work a little harder, be more confident, more willing to make the extra effort to get the job done right. So when your employees need time off to serve, remember, it's not just good for our country, it's good for your business.
Glad you could all make it.
Don't be a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed today. Learn how at ready.gov.
Hello and welcome back to Meet the Red Cross. I'm Dave Griffith, the Executive Director for the Heart of Missouri chapter, and joining us for the second half of our show is Jolene Davis. And Jolene is one of our volunteers up in Montgomery and Audrain County, and has been with us, volunteer for, I think, a little over 2 years now. Is that right, Jolene?
Yes.
Jolene, welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us
Glad
today.
to be here.
As we've done with every other guest that I've had on this show, we like to find out a little bit about you before we start talking about why you're here today. So you might just tell us about Jolene Davis.
Well, I grew up military. My dad was 30 years in the Air Force. I'm the oldest of 7 children. I've pretty much traveled much of the world. I went to kindergarten in Germany and lived stateside, and then graduated high school in England. And so I've traveled much of Europe and the US, and that's pretty much my background as far as growing up.
Okay. And you're a teacher. You were a teacher?
Yes, yes. Okay. I was a teacher for 31 years. I went straight into teaching right after high school, and actually taught all of my 31 years in Montgomery County. I've pretty much taught K through 8 at some point in time, regular classroom and then special education. And after 31 years, I decided to, and raising 2 daughters. I have 2 daughters, one who is in education and is teaching in Columbia. My other daughter is married to a Marine and lives in North Carolina, and she's actually working in a high school. And my husband's in law enforcement. And after 31 years of teaching, I decided to pursue some of my other hobbies. I enjoy photography, and I live next door to another Davis. We often get called sisters, but we're not. And Anita Davis retired several years before I did, and got me interested in taking classes, and so for Red Cross. And so I decided that I would want to. I'm a do things person, so I decided that I wanted to have something to do when I retired. So I started taking classes actually before I retired, and once I retired, I kind of jumped into Red Cross and was on our local Red Cross board, and have done a number of things with Red Cross, and so that's kind of how I got involved with Red Cross. Well,
you kind of had a baptism of fire almost shortly after you became a volunteer, and you were deployed to Superstorm Sandy.
I was. I went with my neighbor, Anita. I had taken the emergency response vehicle, the ERV classes, and so that was my first opportunity to go out. And we actually responded out to Superstorm Sandy. We arrived the day the hurricane was coming in, and we were sent to Middletown, New York, farther inland. And then the following day, we were sent, along with 3 other ERVs from the state of Missouri. There were 6 ERVs altogether, and 4 of them were from Missouri, and we went out to Long Island, and we spent all of our time out on Long Island. And so we were the first people to see much of Long Island out there.
Well, taking the ERV, that adds a whole new different dimension to a road trip, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's very different than driving a car.
Well, I think what was unique was when I got out to New York, and I was getting processed in. One of the first 2 people that I saw was Anita and Jolene, and they were processing out.
Yes, we've been there 17 days.
As fate would have it, Long Island was where I provided service as well, where I volunteered. So, so what was that experience like for you?
It was truly awesome. I had, you hear about disasters, but to see them firsthand, and it really tugged at your heartstrings. But I have to say that every person, without fail, every person we came in contact with was so appreciative of everything. We had people asking, what can we do for you? How can we help you? You're out here day after day, and much of the problem out there was communication, lack of communication. They had lost all their power. Many of them were right on the beachfront, so their homes were flooded. Their vehicles had been destroyed, or seawater, and they couldn't drive them. And even if they could, there was a shortage of gas, so and they didn't want to leave their homes, and so they were pretty much stuck. So they depended on us to be their eyes and ears. And every day that we kind of went to the same area for several days in a row and provided ready-to-eat meals for those people, and supplies for them, water and snacks and blankets and things like that. And so we were their information in, and we also took back information to local law enforcement and other emergency personnel to let them know who was out there and still in need of services. So.
And, you know, that was one of the things that I really found. I think people have a concept of what New Yorkers are like, and that they are rude and just not really very friendly people. And I saw the exact opposite. I saw people that were appreciative, and people in families that came together, neighborhoods that came together and took care of their own. And I know one incident and I don't know whether you saw this or not, but one incident where we were delivering meals to homes, and the lady said, "I don't need this meal, but my neighbor around the block needs it, and would you take it to her?" And that it just warmed my heart to see that during the face of adversity and tragedy, that those communities, and they are a community that came together. So.
Oh, absolutely. They would tell us the same type things. You know, I'll only take one or two of these because my neighbor down the street is handicapped, or would you please check on so-and-so on the next street? I know they were hit worse than we were. Mm-hmm. And everywhere we went, everywhere, people came up to us and said, "Thank you for coming, thank you." And especially when they heard, you know, where we were from, you drove all the way out here, and they were just absolutely amazed. And we said, "Yeah, we did." And you know, we came because people were in need of help, and they could not have been more appreciative.
Well, that's a national disaster that you went on, but mm-hmm. there are disasters that happen inside the Heart of Missouri chapter, unfortunately, almost every day, and those are the single-family fires. And have you been deployed to any of those?
Yes, a number of them in in Montgomery County, and I even have responded in Audrain County, and we just actually had a fire in town this week. I did not go to that. Someone else had responded to that one, but yes, I have responded to a number of fires, and once again, those people are more than appreciative of everything that you can do for them.
Well, I don't want to run out of time before we talk about the dinner auction. Mm-hmm. The Audrain Montgomery County Leadership Council has a few events that they hold every year, and this is the biggest event. This one's been going on for 16 years, and you might tell us about the dinner auction and what they can expect.
Well, it's coming up March 29th, the end of this month, and it's at the Elks Lodge in Mexico, and they have a wonderful meal, and the doors open, I believe, at 5 o'clock, and the dinner is at 6. It is a silent auction and a live auction. Usually the live portion comes after dinner. We have items out for the silent auction, and people can bid on them before dinner and then during dinner, and then afterwards. There's usually a program during the evening, and then we have the live auction, and we have it's a great money maker for us.
Do you know of any of the items that we have that are going to be on the auction?
Well, we have a lot of, there are a lot of handcraft items. My daughter's been crocheting feverishly. She's done a lot of little baby booties and hats and things. There's baby quilts, and there's jewelry. There are sports items. There are tickets for various things like massages and haircuts, and it's just a wide variety of all kinds of things. There's usually sports events tickets, and I don't know the particular ones that they have, but I know there's, you name it, if you can think of it, it's pretty much an item that's available.
Well, I think, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, I think you got some bed and breakfast.
Yes, and I'm working on that one still this year. Yeah, I'm really hopeful that I'm waiting to hear back from those people. But yes, we had an overnight stay in Herman, and it was paired with a couple's massage. Oh, wow. And so, yeah, and then we have a lot of the wineries will donate various wines, and there are lots of goodie baskets and things like that. So, yeah.
So you and the rest of the Leadership Council are feverishly going out and calling on businesses and individuals to try and get their support?
Yes, and I find that when you tell them it is for Red Cross and you let them know that the monies are to help locally, they are more than willing to offer something.
Yeah. And now the time again
Is the doors open at 5, dinner is at 6, and the cost of tickets is $25, and you can get them from local Red Cross chapter, or you can go online, and it's www.redcross.org/HOM, and you go to events and click on that, on the auction, and you can get tickets by ordering them online.
Well, that's
So-
good. That's good. The last thing I want to talk to you about, and I meant to talk with when we have volunteers in here to talk about, first off, how did you become a volunteer? And what would you recommend that if someone is out there that is thinking about becoming a Red Cross volunteer, what advice would you give them, or how can we get them engaged?
The way I became a volunteer was a neighbor who was already a volunteer, and visiting with her and listening to the things that she had done, and just getting interested. The teacher in me is always looking for something to do and somebody to help and work with. And to get involved, it's not difficult at all. You can go on to the Red Cross internet site, and there are classes that you can take. There are several classes that you would sign up for. The first one is an overview, and basically that's all you need to get started, is an overview class, what Red Cross is and what it's about. And then they suggest that you take disaster assessment, sheltering, and client casework. And then that kind of gives you more of an idea of things that happen, and it's not difficult at all. Just want to help.
You mentioned that you're one of the IRV drivers, the emergency response vehicle. We talk in acronyms in the Red Cross almost all the time, but that's also additional training that you had to take.
Yes. That was. I had to take basic food handling with that, and you have to have first aid with that, or CPR with that, and a safe driving course, and that you can take online, and then study. There are things that you need to know about the IRV, and then you go and take the actual driving course. And for somebody who had never driven anything like that, it was an experience, but it was not as difficult as I thought. So.
And where did you do? What was the course that you drove?
I did that in St. Louis.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and then went out to New York and learned to back that thing into spaces I didn't think I could do it. So it's.
So Anita went with you. Anita
Yes,
Davis went with you. She's her neighbor, by the way. And so you trade off driving when you were going out there, and you did the same thing when you're deployed out in the field.
Yes. You trade off, and always if you have to back up anytime, you've got to have someone behind you because you have a lot of blind spots. So it is a two-man team. You definitely go, and then you take turns driving, and it just works very well.
Now, that part of when you were deployed in Long Island, were you on food distribution on fixed sites, or were you mobile?
We did both.
Okay.
Mostly we did mobile. We went out and found the people and delivered the MREs, the meals ready to eat, the military meals that don't need heating and or heat themselves. And then there was just one day that we did a fixed feeding where it was advertised, and it was actually where they were stationed with FEMA, and people were coming to register and find out information for that. And so we set up the IRV there so that people could come and get lunch there, and we served meals, and we went out and delivered hot meals a lot of times too. The Arkansas Baptist do
Southern
a lot of it.
Baptist, yeah.
Yes, they do a lot of cooking, and they would do like thousands of meals a day. It was phenomenal. And they'd load us up, and we'd go out and deliver hot meals and turn around and come back and do the same thing in the evening. So.
I guess one question that if I were watching this, how would people know that you're even coming, or how would people know you're in their area?
Well, as we drive through, we would get on the bullhorn and announce and pretty much say, you know, that we were the American Red Cross, and that we were what we had. We were delivering water, food, blankets, whatever we happened to have on, and people we'd drive slowly through the neighborhood, and people would just start coming out.
All right. Well, Jolene, thank you so much. We're just about out of time, but one more time, I want to have you give us the date and the time and the location of where the dinner auction is going to be.
It is March 29th at the Elks Lodge in Mexico, Missouri, and it starts at 5 o'clock for the silent auction. Dinner is at 6, and then it's followed by a live auction.
And I can vouch that the food is absolutely delicious.
Yes, it is.
Well, Jolene, thank you so much for being on our show this time. And thank you for joining us as well. And if you would like to become a volunteer, you can contact our office at 431 East McCarty Street here in Jefferson City. You can call 635-1132, or you can call our toll-free number as well. And we'd be glad to give you information on how you too can be a volunteer and affect so many people's lives. The dinner auction, we would invite you to come to that as well. Got more information on that if you need it too. So until next time, thank you for your support of the American Red Cross.